Welcome. In this chapter of setting up a bedrock plane, we're going to discuss chip breakers. And this is a very important part. It's often overlooked. And I wanted to show you here, we run this sort of experiment all the time in the workshop with my students. We've got a fully prepared number 5 by DICTUM, great plane that can perform exceptionally well, and the one that we are preparing. So we've got a perfectly flat sole beyond any kind of reproach. It glides smoothly. The blade is fully prepared and razor sharp, as you saw in the previous video. And the only difference between those two at this point is that the chip breaker hasn't been prepared. So let's see what happens. I have a fairly close setting, so the chip breaker is right behind the cutting edge. So let's begin by discussing what the chip breaker does within the plane, okay? The first thing it does is stabilizing the blade at its thinnest point right behind the edge, where it could be slightly flexible and give you tear out. So one of the ways is having a thicker blade, but also the chip breaker does a very important task there. It performs this function of stabilizing and offering support, and that's so important. And the second reason is to avoid tear out, and you saw in the video how to avoid tear out, that it's a quite I think it's the third strategy to prevent tear out by order of importance. So that's quite significant. And yeah, it's not only a middleman between the yoke and the sharp edge of the plane so that you can move things up and down. It does so much more than that, but to do this properly we need to prepare it. So let's begin with a fully prepared blade, and I can see beautiful shavings coming right away, and my feeling is effortless action. Okay, it sounds nice, it feels nice. I don't need any lubrication on the sole, and everything, it's just fine and dandy. Let's see this one here. This one is not actually even taking a shaving now. Everything feels very difficult, and I can see some sort of strange dust forming there. Quite commonly, this is an extreme case, but most usually you would be able to plane and you would find this kind of accordion shape shavings. I wanted to show you that one for you, but all my chip breakers are prepared, and this one doesn't seem to be able to make these accordion shape shavings, but it's something you are most likely familiar with. And really, I don't care at all if the shaving is fine and nice, or having funny zigzag shapes. But what I do care is about the action being as effortless as possible. And this is not effortless at all. If I set the chip breaker back by 1 extra millimeter, quite possibly it will perform very nicely, and we'll do that in a minute. But then you lose all the action that the chip breaker, everything that the chip breaker has to offer is completely gone. Okay. Another possibility might be to try and take a thicker shaving now. So I'm gonna take a thicker shaving and I'm gonna see what's going on. Yeah, really difficult to push. Nothing's coming out other than this compressed dust and fibers. So really nasty. And also the texture I'm leaving behind is ragged, almost like it has tear out. So not very pleasing, not satisfactory at all. So you need to understand how a chip breaker comes when it comes from the manufacturer. And I must say, no manufacturers will give you the perfect chip breaker, and you should improve it if you want to get the best out of your plane. I must say, if I take this back only a little bit, the plane will start working, okay, properly. But friction, it's much higher in this situation than here, very clearly. So the chip breaker is not making things easy for us in this situation, although it does work. Okay, but you know, setting the chip breaker back is not the remedy for this. So let me show you. I'm gonna make you a few drawings of how chip breakers are, so that you get an idea. So this is your plane, blade, bevel down, and then we've got the chip breaker, if that's the cutting edge, a little bit behind that, and it has this shape. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration, but you can see very clearly that this is a 90-degree corner and this is a blunted edge, like a wall. Okay, so when you're cutting the wood, the shaping that's being created just curls up in here and crashes, and it comes out like this, and this creates lots of friction and lots of problems. Okay, and all manufacturers will give you a slightly blunted chip breaker edge. Some of them are quite functional from the beginning, but all of them can be improved. And so this is our improved chip breaker. I'll show you in a minute. So again, that's my blade, cutting edge here, and I get a 45-degree bevel, so to speak. I hope that's just clear enough. Okay, that's my drawing skills. But you can see now that my shaping, when it comes here, it's gonna find not a 90-degree wall, but a slope, a severe slope. This is about 45 degrees. And that means it's going to be forced heavily, but also smoothly all the way up. Okay, and this is the best possible configuration to avoid tear out and to have a smooth transition and no resistance. So in short, the idea here is to turn this blunted edge into a fine 45-degree bevel. Okay, you might find it a little bit steep, especially because manufacturers will give you the bevel of the chip breaker at 25 degrees, but I found this helps a lot with tear out. It makes a huge difference. Okay, and yet there is another very important thing in this drawing, which is, you see there is a negative space here. This is a void. Okay, and the flat back, so to speak, the flat back of the chip breaker is not flat at all. It usually has a step in here, and this surface is not parallel to this surface. And all of that is arranged so that you have this negative space here that will ensure full contact right in here. Because let me give you another drawing. So there is the danger to make this while we are preparing the chip breaker. If we end up with something that looks like this, we've made a shaving strap. That's very common in old vintage planes or really low quality planes, because then your shaving is gonna get trapped in here and it will clog very quickly and you won't be planing anything. Okay, so if you see, we need to respect this negative space, and we must make sure we don't change the angle here. So that sounds complicated, but in practice we can do it in a very reasonable way. So let's get to do it. I'm gonna take this blade, this one here, disassemble everything carefully as always, not to damage the components. Okay, when you take this back, you need to do it very carefully. Yeah. So here's the chip breaker. You can see what I've been talking about. And this one is a little bit extreme. Usually we find them a bit more refined on the edge, but that's totally okay because we still need to do the same job. I must stress here that you can do average work with this chip breaker without improving it, okay? But if you want to go the extra mile to get the best possible results in difficult woods, best possible performance, then this is a must. All right, with every manufacturer. I'm going to remove a little bit of the oil here because I will use the permanent marker, and if there's any oil it won't work and it ruins the felt tip marker. So let's go to the sharpening workbench, and I'm going to remove the chip breaker screw, and I will install the chip breaker just as if it was a blade in my honing guide. Any Eclipse type honing guide works for this, or any guide will possibly work. And I'm gonna set it for a 45-degree angle. Okay, which is this very steep projection. Now I get familiar with the blunted edge I have to know what I have to remove, and the first step is very simple, is creating that bevel, removing the flat edge. So I'm using a 1000 grit stone. I'm going to just raise it up, put it on this holder for now, and now I can begin to do the job. This is very simple. It's just like sharpening a chisel. Okay, it will take a little bit of time, but not that much, especially because this stone is incredibly fast. This is a ceramic stone and it's very, very efficient. As always, you'll find some links to those things down below in this video comments. You can see right away all the metal particles being formed. Okay, I think I'm done. That most likely has been edited. It took perhaps 2 minutes more or less to complete, but that's quite exceptional. Usually this bevel is very fine, maybe less than ½ millimeter, and the job is done in about 30 seconds, okay? But today I had a little bit more work. So I can see a 45-degree bevel here. I can feel the slideless burr on the other side, confirming the job is done, and therefore I don't need to do anything else. Okay, the only thing I have left to do is to remove the burr on the other side and to confirm this surface is flat. If you remember from the previous video, on the flat back of the blade we created this super flat 1 millimeter stripe right in contact with the cutting edge, okay, and that's what's gonna receive the lip here of our chip breaker. Okay, and so we don't want to have any bumps or any hollows in there. We want full contact all the way through, and that's why we also need to confirm that this is flat across its width. Okay, along the length of the lip, so to speak, in that direction is not really important, but from here to here you want something which is flat. All right, so we have those things to do. I'm just going to re-flatten the blade, the stone. Okay. And now I'm going to remove the base to work at a lower angle, because remember we have this lip which has an angle of its own, and we cannot just come here as if this was the flat back of a blade and just rub it in a careless way, because we could have a bird's mouth and a shaping strap as I drew earlier. So we need to find the exact angle at this in which this is going to rest properly. Okay, and this sounds very difficult, but it really isn't. The first thing I'm going to do is to paint this lip black. And I will remove some of the slurry here in the stone to have a better reading of what's going on. And this is about 12 millimeters or half an inch. And I'll begin by resting the blade and having a good look and see if the lip is parallel to the stone, it's fully rested on it. And I come to realize it's very hard to see, really. So what we can see really very clearly is that I will be removing some ink, and this will tell us the exact contact point that we're working at. So I will begin with this height here. It seems to be right. So sometimes things slip and you need to hold on to them. I'm going to just try and remove a little bit of the ink here, and I'm seeing very clearly this is too low because the marks are all the way very far away from the edge. So I'm going to raise with several shims until I find the correct position. So first I'm going to try with some veneer. Here. Okay, and I'm seeing I'm well away from the cutting edge, so I'm still too low down. I want to raise up to engage fully flat here on the lipping, and I'm also seeing this lipping has a curve here, a small valley like that. So we'll need to work this until it gets flat. And to tilt this up, I'm going to just keep coming higher. Now with a piece of veneered MDF, actually. So I don't think it's a good idea to try and do mathematics here. Trigonometry, it's too theoretical for this. You could do the calculations, but down to practice, all the chip breakers I've found, even from the same manufacturer, they are always slightly different. So it's this kind of empiric way of doing it. It's, to me, the easiest, and you don't need to do any crazy calculations. So here, yes, that is correct. Now I found the angle because I can see the wear is even across the lip. Remember to like and subscribe, it's great help for us, thank you. And so now I can continue just working. Now that I have the angle, I will continue working until I get a complete stripe all the way through, and this will remove also the bird that I created while making the bevel. I can use the other edge of the stone, and I'll keep flattening it regularly. Usually I would use a diamond stone for this. Today I wanted to try this one because I know this one is quicker, but then you need to keep reflattening it. Okay, something in the way here. Yeah, that's done. We've dressed dozens of chip breakers in this workshop, my students and I, of different brands, and usually the DICTUM ones, they take from 3 to 5 minutes average. This one took a little bit longer, but that's exceptional. And so if you have a look, we have a flat, clean lip, which is ready for work, I think, but sometimes you just get on the other side a burr, converged burr on the bevel. So it's not a bad idea to go this way, and then maybe again this way, and make sure you don't have any burr on either side. Especially with vintage planes, chip breakers were of very mild iron. I don't think even it was steel, and sometimes you get this burr that keeps folding all the time and it never folds off, so that calls for some extra patience. But here I'm done today, so we can try it now. So we're back to the bench, and I have applied some oil to the chip breaker, and I have installed everything, and I've got it ready to test it. So let's see how it works. Yeah, that's just awesome. Look at this. It's really, really nice shapings, effortless action, and I'm very pleased with that. And now I think we're ready to try this. We're not with this plane. There are still a few more things I want to tell you about in the future videos, but I think now we can try and plane something that is unplaneable, or at least that most people would consider unplaneable, which is this exotic wood, which has the grain going in every possible direction. So this one is finished, this one is not finished, and I think with the plane as it is right now, we can take shavings without tear out. And many people would consider that impossible for this timber. So let's see. Now I have no shaving, and I'm going to start advancing the blade until I get the thinnest possible shaving. Remember that we made a video on the 5 strategies to prevent tear out, and I'm applying all of them here. So yes, I'm taking beautiful shavings. And no tear out whatsoever, so that's quite possible. Look at this, shaving without any flaws. So that's a really nice performance in a hand plane. We still have a few more things to discuss. The frog adjustments, the lever cap, the tightness of the screws here, and how the whole thing, all the mechanisms should be functioning. So stay tuned for the next video.